Hello, everyone. You are listening to Those Are the Girls with Mallory and Friends. I'm Mallory.
And I'm Melanie.
And we are changing culture and bringing back traditional values. I'm super happy for Melanie to be back. She wasn't here last week's episode. It was right up your alley. I wish you could have been there. If you guys hadn't listened, you really need to. The title of it is Can Woolly Mammoths Stop Climate? Can woolly mammoths stop climate change? The answer may surprise you. Anyway, so that episode is out, but we're glad to have her back for this Teacap.
Happy to be back, Mallory.
Oh, okay, that's good to hear. Just like a funny, awkward pause. Anyway, so how are your New Year's resolutions going? How is everything going?
Well, I have been listening to the Bible in a Year podcast. Maybe not daily, but like I'll catch up maybe every 2-3 days.
Same.
And so I've been keeping up to date. I'm, current. I have not been so careful with like not eating excess sugar, like as in products that already come with sugar, but I have made an effort to like not add sugar to things.
Good.
Like toast or
you were adding sugar to toast?
Yeah, girl, I would do this thing. Y'all, everybody try this. It's so good. Okay, so toast and then butter and then put sugar on top of the butter. I thought it was really good. It is really good. Anyways, and then I have not been stretching every day like I wanted. Yeah. I have been waking up early every day. Minus like the weekends or the days that I'm off from work.
Yeah.
But I've been waking up around like 6:30 most days, which is
that's early for you. Wow.
Yes. And it's very early for me. 8 a.m. would have been like early. Like 8 a.m. is early for me. For me, I feel like my body naturally wakes up around like 9 a.m. But I've been waking up around 6:30 because I normally need to be on the road at like 7:30, 7:20, and knowing myself and the amount of time I need to get ready, I have to wake up like an hour before my leave time. So that's why I've been waking up so early. So I'm glad. And then it's so cool having so much of the day. Like you get the day started.
I've been trying to tell everybody. Getting up early, you get more out of your day.
Yeah.
You get more.
And for me, the main incentive to wanting to wake up early is being to work on time. Yes. But then also just like being able to relax and do my skincare and intentionally pray every morning for like 10-15 minutes. So that's been good. But I have not been stretching every day like I wanted.
Well, the fact that you're able to talk about it and you recognize that you're not doing what you need to do. Well, no, I'm just saying that's like a good step. That's a good step. So then maybe now that you've said that, you've admitted it, maybe you might feel more motivated to do it now because you've talked about it. Yeah. I am doing okay with my resolutions. The Bible everyday thing is very hard. And I'm realizing I need to manage my time better. That's probably my biggest. When you guys hear this, it'll be 15 days, but we're recording at 13 days into the new year, and almost 2 weeks pretty much. And I realized like I need to do better time management because I work a 9 to 5, and honestly, this podcast, all the things that we're going to do, all the things we have planned, is kind of a 9 to 5, not a 9 to 5, but it's a good chunk of my time. And then I'm also part of different clubs. I also need to be doing other things. I need to be working on my fitness. So I just really have to be more on top of my time management. And I think for January, what I have put on myself is January is actually my dress rehearsal almost. So like I'm figuring money management. I'm figuring out like, okay, I actually spend this amount of money. I thought I only spent this amount of money. All right, well now I know. So the next month I'm actually recording how much money I spent. So the next month I'll be a little bit more cognizant. With the gym, like I'm realizing waking up at 5:15 is really, really hard. I'm pretty sure like I need to figure something else out to make sure that I'm getting in the gym every day. So, okay, what are other options? And that's what January has been for me. Okay, it feels as if I cannot read my Bible every single day. So I'm getting a little bit behind. All right, so what does that mean? Okay, maybe I can bring my Bible to work and read during lunch, that type of thing. Like, that's how January has been for me. So February, hopefully the idea is I would have gotten all the kinks out. So then this schedule type rigidness I have planned in my head will be able to be implemented, because now that I've figured out, okay, this doesn't work, but this does. So I have 2 more weeks, I guess you can say, to like finalize what all works.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you been watching anything cool recently on TV?
TV? No. I finished a Netflix show. I finished a couple Netflix shows.
Well, that's what I mean. When I say TV, Netflix is included.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, okay, y'all. Y'all heard of Love is Blind, but you haven't heard of Love is Blind Brazil. So I watched a whole season of Love is Blind Brazil, and I just finished that, which is
Was it
so
in
cool.
Portuguese?
Yeah, the whole thing is in Portuguese. And Netflix has a really cool extension. I forgot the name of the extension, but it allows for you to see the subtitles in the native language and in English or whatever your native language is. And so it's cool because then I can see, their words as they're speaking, and I can see the English translation. And a
Oh,
really
that
cool
is cool.
feature is like, let's say there's a word, maybe you're learning Portuguese and there's a word you're like, oh, I didn't catch that, what does that mean? You can put the mouse over that word and it'll tell you the definition. Well, you already have the English translation too, but it can tell you like the direct translation. Anyways, that's a cool feature. And then another show I finished is called Go, which is a Spanish show based in Argentina, which is kind of like a High School Musical vibe. And the main character is torn between two boys, and there's the mean girl who's the principal's daughter, and then a huge plot twist of the main character finds out who her dad is, but I'm not going to tell you who her dad is anyways. But I finished that, so now I'm kind of like floating around like, what's next for me? I
Well,
saw a show about organization, and so I think I want to watch that next. Like there's two people who they specialize in helping people organize their spaces, like organize their homes, make it just, a peaceful environment where everything's in order. And I could really use that. So I think I'm going to start
same.
watching that. And Tiny Homes. Okay.
I don't like shows like that though. The tiny homes thing. But that's right up your alley.
Yeah.
I wish I could get into that. Or like those shows, where people like rebuild, where they rebuild houses. I want to get into those. I just can't.
Yeah, well, I mean, like for me with the organization show, like that's a skill I want to work on. So I'm like, okay. Or the tiny homes, like I can get different ideas. I can see.
Do you want to do a tiny home?
I don't know. I'm like, I need to talk about this more and like just like research, watch YouTube videos of what are the costs, like what are the pros and cons of tiny home versus trailer versus RV versus van life. Like they're all similar, but there's different just benefits. And so, yeah, I need to do more like Googling and YouTubing of, what's right for me.
Yeah. Yeah, because in my head, I would think at least RV and van would be practically the same, but I guess it'd be different.
Yeah, they're way different.
Okay. Well, the more you know. The Spanish show sounds very interesting. Very interesting. The Brazil show sounds. I didn't see Love Is Blind, the English version, so
Girl, why
I know.
not?
I just hadn't seen it because I don't know. It was Love Blind. We don't have to get into that, but
Well, that's the main question of the show. And the finale, like the end, is whether or not they say I do at the altar. Is kind of like, and that's like the answer to, is love blind? Like, does blind love lead to marriage? And yeah, that's what we learned from the show.
Well, maybe I'll check it out. Everybody loved it. Like, I remember it came out like 2 years ago, right?
The American version, yeah. I guess it came out during COVID time.
Yeah, I think it was like right at quarantine. But I guess I'll have to check it out. The Spanish show does sound interesting though.
It's called Go.
The next show you should watch is Emily in Paris.
Okay.
Because I finished that last weekend. I watched both seasons last weekend. Fantastic show. 10 out of 10. Do not know why there's so much hate. The fashion, not necessarily Emily, but Kemi, she's one of the characters. Oh god, why can I not remember the other girl's name? And she is Korean and Chinese. Oh my gosh, how can I not remember her name? Anyway, their outfits, every single one of them, I was like, need. I legitimately looked up some, and the girl, I want to call her Ashley. I think that's her real name in real life, but I can't remember her name on the show. But she has this like case that has this like thing that I looked up. I want to get one next month. Like, it's such a good show, and the drama of it all is like drama. There's like love, and she has to pick between certain guys, and then she goes in her friends, and it's so good. And it's in Paris, and like honestly, it got me really like, oh god, I gotta travel. Like, get me out of here. When are we gonna be done with this like COVID stuff so I can travel again? Like, it just
it's based in Paris, but it's all in English?
Yes, there are moments in French though.
Okay.
So you have to read the screen. So the idea is she gets a job, or her job sends her to Chicago. Her job in Chicago sends her to Paris to be the American influence on like their marketing company or something. And she's kind of like fumbling around trying to figure it out. She meets a guy, she makes friends, she gets involved in little shindigs, and we learn about different rendezvous. We learn a little about French culture. It's really
I don't know why I thought originally Emily in Paris was a movie.
I feel like you're thinking of Madeline.
No. I don't know why I thought that. Oh well.
It's the show, and it's so good, and I really want you to watch it so you can tell me.
I think I'm gonna watch it, but I want to watch it in French.
Do it. I want you to tell me who she should be with, because there's like this little,
after I watch it.
Yeah, after you watch it, and like Camille has the best fashion. Like everything she wears, I'm just like need. Like, it looks. I looked up some stuff. I was like, well, let me just see. And there's like different Instagram pages dedicated to their outfit. It's just like,
oh whoa,
it's everything that I love it. I love Paris. I know there's like a part where it's like, yeah, people are so obsessed with the commercialization. I'm like, yes, I am people. I like that. Like, I always find it funny when they try to like make those people interested in that type of thing, and they try to make them out to be like bad guys. But like, I do like to go to places. Like, if I want to travel, I would like to go to the commercialized place because I'd like to see what everybody sees. But I also like to go to the non-commercialized place, to be in the city, in the country, wherever I am. But I like to do both. Like, and I don't think there's wrong with liking it.
Could you? Okay, just tell me. You don't have to tell me which guy she ends up with, but can you at least tell me that she ends up with someone?
I can't tell you that.
Okay.
The finale is too much. The finale is too much. Like, it's just, you gotta see it. You gotta see it. Also too, and then we should get started. I do want to give like a little shout out type thing to have you heard Bryson Gracie's song?
No.
Okay, so he has a new song with this girl, with this guy. I'm pretty sure I sent it to you. Cough, cough, sniff, sniff. Let me see. Oh, I did. Okay, with this new guy, and it's like this. In the song, it talks about like how he is not controlled, so he can say and do whatever he wants. And I want to give a shout out only because, well, also to the part that like the other guy is in is actually like his little part. He makes like a anyway. You should listen to the song. It's called Control. But I wanted to give a shout out because it really inspired me, I guess you can say, because he made a very good point about like not being bought by anyone. You can say and do whatever you want, and like it's I don't know if anyone else listening has a brand or a podcast or whatever, and it can sometimes get discouraging because the reality is like, you know, if we were associated, just use an example of like if Turning Point decided they wanted to do a bunch of podcasts, which they kind of have already started that, but like let's say they wanted to open a podcast network and they reached out. The reality is there's certain things that we probably couldn't say or talk about because of who was associated with, and we're trying to please the donors that they have picked as opposed to different people. So I don't know, it just was very inspiring for me because sometimes there are moments where I'm like, oh, I kind of want to sell the IP because it's not that I want fame and fortune. It's just I know how it feels to feel alone and you want to hear different, like some of the stuff we're going to talk about and some of the things even on our Instagram page. I know how it feels to feel alone. So it would be great if I had this type of podcast, this type of thing to start off with. I created because there was not one like it. And then I want other girls to feel as if they're not alone. And then number two, because I do understand and recognize how important it is for us to be in these type of spaces, for us to be Kong Ming, who we had on the podcast a couple months ago. He posted, let me just read this really quick because I think it's so important. He posted this. He said, I hate when conservatives mock and deride cultural phenomenon like K-pop, anime, video games, fashion, films, etc. We need more conservatives in these spaces, not less, because these are the things inspiring and captivating the hearts of the next generation. The reason why we keep losing is because conservatives are so out of touch with culture and don't even know how to create or influence it. Conservatives always distastefully ridicule the extreme liberal parts of culture instead of promoting and acknowledging the good parts. For example, anime many times can be gross, like hentai, but there are many profound anime with profound stories that hit home and inspire because they have amazing themes of family, love, sacrifice, etc. Very conservative themes, Attack on Titan. But too many just dismiss anime completely. Facts, data, statistics are important, but they don't move the hearts of men and inspire. Stories do, culture does. Facts don't care about your feelings is a failed mantra because while that may be true, feelings are what mobilize people and change their hearts. Liberals understand this so well. All of society's most influential gamers, streamers, artists, musicians, and I'm going to say it, podcasters are all liberal. When the Biden administration is able to prop up cultural icons like Olivia Rodrigo and pentatonics to promote the Fauci ouchie, and it's highly effective. If we're not engaging with and influencing culture, we're playing to lose. Instead of scoffing at completely disregarding from culture as if we're so superior, we must promote the good within these cultural phenomena. So the next time you have the urge to crap on Korean dramas because the men don't have biceps the size of basketballs, or to miss video games as a whole because you think it's a waste of time, take a moment and understand why these are popular and what draws people to them. People are drawn to cultural sins and fads because of their components within them resonate with the human experience or our sense of adventure, and they also provide outlets for people to find solace from the distress and problems they see in this society. There's like two more that I'm not going to read because it's already gone on too long, but you guys get the point. Like, we need more people in these spaces, and I really do. That song was really cool, and it really just made me remember that this is needed, and I should stick with my morals and my values, the things that I think are important that should be talked about. So yeah.
Amen.
Amen. I guess we should get started. We have a lot to go over, and we've talked a lot. All right, you ready for the first story?
Yeah.
And let us clink our glasses, and we we are ready for some tea. Clink. Okay. Okay. So our first story is New York City gives 800,000 non-citizens the right to vote in local elections. The legislation approved by the city council will set up a system for legal residents to vote in municipal elections. New York City became the largest city in the country to allow non-citizens to vote in local elections after the city council on Thursday overwhelmingly approved legislation granting the right to more than 800,000 legal residents. The move places New York City at the forefront of the debate over voting rights, serving as a stark contrast to some states that have moved to add voting restrictions, including explicitly barring non-citizens from voting. The legislation was approved over the objections of Mayor Bill de Blasio, who questioned whether the city council has the power to grant voting rights to non-citizens. Legal experts expect the bill could face a legal challenge. Non-citizens will be able to register to vote a year from now. They will begin voting in local elections as of January 9th, 2023, according to the city council. And then I want to say on January 10th, the GOP filed suit against Mayor Eric Adams, who, if you watch the ball drop, that's who was sworn in as mayor. So that was interesting right after the ball drop. New York City Council and New York City Board of Elections in state court for illegally allowing non-citizens to vote in city elections. American elections should be decided by American citizens, and American citizens is in all caps. Mel, what are your thoughts?
I think this is so interesting, to be allowing for non-citizens. I think that language of non-citizens is really interesting because it seems like they're not here illegally. It says that they are residents. So I just think that language is interesting of non-citizens. But I do think that voting should be a right and a privilege to citizens of that space.
It's a privilege and a right.
And because if you don't have to be a citizen to vote, then who cares? Like right. Might as well. I don't know. I just can't imagine going somewhere, I don't know, Germany, Japan, and being like, hey, I'm here now. Give me the right to vote. It's called a right, like for a reason. I don't know. So, and I think too, I remember hearing it once, I don't know, like from PragerU videos or something of like, it's a tactic for the left / Democrats to appeal to the minority communities to try to get their vote so that they'll keep voting the way how Democrats / left wants them to vote. So I just think it's really interesting because New York, has many immigrants, first generation people. And so I just think that this is an example of that kind of theory, I don't know, like playing out in reality of, hey, we'll give you the right to vote. And now forever, New York City is never going to not be extremely left leaning. I don't know. So
no,
just a theory.
That's a very good point. I'm pretty sure New York has the most immigrants because of LaGuardia. I'm pretty sure the statistic could be wrong. So I do think this is a strategic tactic for sure. I also like the point you made. We can't go into Germany and be like, I'm not a citizen, but here's my vote. And I guess I'm also kind of confused why it does feel, especially people, okay, sorry, I'm saying like 6 different things. So Another thing that I find very interesting also too in the same vein is how people think that we should just have open borders. And how this relates is I don't understand how people think that it's a country. How is it a country if any and everyone can come and go as they please? Also, too, how is it a country if any and everyone can vote? Then it's not really our thing. Then it's not a country. At that point, it's kind of just like a plot of land that some people live on, and there's no like order and there's no structure. And like you said, we can't go to Germany, we can't go to Australia, we can go to Canada and be like, hey, let me vote. And I think that's okay because within our structure, within our community, this is how it is, and this is how you can determine that this is a space, this is for us. So I think it's crazy, but good on the GOP for filing that suit. I hope that that it'll go on the GOP's favor, but I am kind of concerned. I don't really know who they sue. Like, is it I don't know what court it's going to be in the federal. I guess it'll be in the state court. So then if it's the New York Supreme Court, I'm not quite sure how their Supreme Court is made up of. If it's people who believe in the Constitution or if it's more of like activists. So I don't know how New York goes, but I hope that I hope that they're not allowed to vote. And I mean, I'm sure if you're a permanent resident, it probably does suck that you can't have a say, but that's what's so great about becoming a citizen. Apply to become a citizen. It takes time and it takes money, and sure, there needs to be some reform, but if you really want to vote, then that's why you should become a citizen. That's a perfect reason to become a citizen.
So I just found the statistics of where the most amount of immigrants are in the US. So this is from pewresearch.org. It says nearly half of the nation's immigrants live in just 3 states: California, Texas, and Florida. And then it says in 2018, most immigrants lived in just 20 major metropolitan areas: New York, Los Angeles, and Miami. And then it doesn't say the other ones, but New York is one of those highly like populated metropolitan areas.
So what I'm guessing is maybe people come to New York City, but they don't go to anywhere else in New York. But then in Texas, they spread out all over Texas. California spread out all over California. Florida spread out all over California. Because that kind of doesn't make sense. Why would it be 3 separate states? And then like one of the cities is not even in the states they mentioned.
Yeah, this also says California had the largest immigrant population of any state in 2018 at over 10 million. Whoa. Texas, Florida, and New York had more than 4 million immigrants each.
Wow. I really would have thought LaGuardia, or like I really would have thought New York would have been the biggest, but I'm guessing that probably was like in 1920 when people were fleeing places. So
I would have thought that Arizona and New Mexico would have been in that
would have been on the list. Yeah, I'm kind of
bordering Mexico, but now I know.
I'm going to jump around since we're talking about voting. I'm just going to jump around really quick. If you want to scroll right after our ad break article, since we're talking about voting, the Democrats actually have a voting bill that's going to be voted on. I am not sure. Yeah, but by the time you guys hear this, it won't be concluded. And Joe Biden was interviewed asking about like if he thinks it'll go through. Sorry, y'all. And he said that he doesn't think it will. So that's interesting. Very interesting. And let me tell you some of the things that are going to be in the bill that he wants to go through. It probably won't go through because of Republicans, which is good. So some of the things is he wants a national standard for voting access. So the Freedom of Vote Act, that's what it's called, will create a set of standards for federal elections to ensure that voters have similar access to ballot boxes across the country. It'll do redistricting reform, and the Freedom of Vote Act would also outlaw partisan gerrymandering in congressional maps and require neutral redistricting standards for all states and mandate transparency in all of the process. It will protect election workers and records and giving legal recourse. The Freedom of Vote Act would make it a federal crime to intentionally harass, intimidate, threaten, or coerce election officials, poll workers, and election volunteers for doing their jobs, which I agree with this one. That's good. I think it should be a federal crime to harass, intimidate, or threaten an election official. I agree with that. Campaign finance report. While the Freedom of Vote Act is often discussed as a reform of voting and election administration, as well as a response to Republican advance restrictions, it also will address longtime Democratic priority, campaign finance laws. I think that I will link this article, and then maybe we'll have someone come and talk more about these things in it a little bit more exclusively. But I think that's one of the Republicans' problems, not because they're like, oh, we want to do whatever we want finances, is because some of the things that they have said are outrageous and it's kind of hard to enforce. And one thing that I like, I don't remember who I heard say this, but they made the comment like, it's not a real law if you can't enforce it. So there's no point of doing it. Like, what's the point of having a law up there if you can't enforce it? Okay. So, and then the last one is an update on the Voting Rights Act. A separate and much narrower bill will update the Voting Rights Act of 1965, a House version of legislation named for John Lewis, a civil rights leader who served for more than 30 years and died in 2020, passed the House in August. So that did not tell you what the update was. I didn't copy that, but I'll link the article. Maybe we'll have someone come and talk, maybe like for 10-15 minutes about it. But the point being, there are some things in the bill that Republicans are not for. And one thing that I want to add, we didn't really talk about this in any of these articles, but I do want to say this because whenever it comes up in voting, whenever we talk about voting, this always comes up. Voting restrictions aren't necessarily restrictions. They're things to keep in place to protect everybody, to make it a fair, safe, and legal election. That's what we want. We want our elections to be fair. We want them to be safe, and we want them to be legal. So, is legal the right word? Yeah, sure. So these quote unquote restrictions are just making it better for everyone. And one of the restrictions that always comes up is voter ID. And I mean, everyone has an ID. That I legitimately don't understand how that is like wrong to require an ID. You have to have an ID to do any and everything. I mean, you have to have an ID to drive. You have to have an ID to go to the store and get certain items. Like, everybody has an ID. I think it's kind of racist to assume that people don't have an ID, if I'm being honest. Like,
yeah, and I've seen a joke by Ricky Taylor that like people who are pro-vaccine, that they will like proudly show their vax card, but then won't like it that an ID is required to vote.
Yeah, like, I don't get it. Make it make sense, as they say.
Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. But yeah, so that's that on voting. That's what's going on. I will try to keep you guys updated on if the bill passed. Then maybe I'll try to have someone on to talk about what all is in the bill. But thankfully that the GOP is going to sue. And just a quick plug, if you are frustrated with what's going on in your city, your county, get involved. Get involved. Our day listening block is, I believe, 23 to 28. They will be excited to see your face. Get involved. 18, if you're 18 and you're like, I want to get involved, they will jump out of their chair. They need help. They probably need help with their social media. They probably need help with new ideas. They need help. I told you, I shared the story in the latest episode with Diana Lee. They probably need help just registering, downloading the app. I was helping one at a voter registration event, and we had to go door knocking, and some of the people didn't even know how to get to their app store. So I helped them download the app, and I was hailed as a hero. Like, they need help. If you don't like what's going on, let's do something. Mel, do you want to do our mid-roll ad?
Yes. Am I supposed to speak in first person for this?
No, it should say Brooke, because I copied. She sent it to me, and I copied and pasted. So, like, say the girl's name is Brooke.
Brooke started it as a passion project in 2019 while working full-time as a nurse. She left her nursing job in 2020 to pursue it full-time because she felt like God was calling her to use it as a ministry. All Little Co apparel,
LITL. So
Little Co apparel is custom designed by Brooke. No items are purchased through mass retailers. All of their bows and scrunchies are wholesaled through small USA businesses and are handmade. Their goal is to wholesale through more and more small businesses so that their customers know where their items are sourced, who is making them, and ultimately can be reassured that when they spend money with them, it's going to wholesome families who are creating beautiful things to support themselves. Their priority is to ensure that Little Co is 100% scripturally based and run. They do not cave to culture.
woohoo! And use the code those girls to get 10% off at their website, litlco.com. As you can tell, this is an unscripted podcast, and we hope that you feel as if you're sitting in the kitchen with us and we're just joshing around, sharing our opinions on some things. I hope that that's the vibe you get, because that's definitely the vibe we are putting out. Okay. Thank you for that, Melanie. All right, so let's do we okay, once again, as you can tell, it's unscripted. Should we do the story before the ad, or no? Do you want to do that?
There's another ad?
No. Scroll up. There's a story before that about the USA Today story.
USA Today.
Yeah, right after the picture of the screenshot of the GOP post. And there's like a...
Oh, I see it now. Okay, sure.
Yeah, should we talk about it? Okay. The reason why I wanted to go back and forth is like, I hate this like topic, but I do think, so I put it on there originally because I'm like, we really should talk about this in the sense of like, if they're going to make it mainstream, then we need to do our best to always combat it every time we see it. But then I'm like, oh, it's such a gross topic. But then I think we should talk about it. So many of you, if you're on Twitter, you saw that USA Today posted their article about pedophiles and say that pedophilia is a sexual disorder. This is the beginning of the article. It says pedophilia is viewed among the most horrifying social ills, but scientists who study the sexual disorder say it's also among the most misunderstood. When most of the public thinks of pedophilia, they assume it's synonymous with child sexual abuse. I guess trigger warning. Don't listen to this part if this is too much. A pervasive social program that has exploded to crisis levels online. Ooh, that's a terrible lie right there. I'll get to that in a second. Researchers who study pedophilia say that the term describes an attraction, not an action, and using it interchangeably with abuse fuels misperceptions. The American Psychiatric Association Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders said pedophilia is defined by recurrent, intense sexual arousing fantasies, sexual urges, or behaviors involving sexual activity with a prepubescent child or children. Scientists have in recent so many thoughts right now. Sorry. Scientists have in recent decades improved their misunderstanding of pedophilia causes prenatal and early childhood risk factors, as well as how pedophiles can better control themselves. One of the most significant findings is that the scientists who study the disorder say pedophilia is determined in the womb, though environmental factors may influence whether someone acts on an urge to abuse. The evidence suggests it is inborn, it is neurological, said James Cantor, a clinical psychologist, sex researcher, and former editor-in-chief of Sexual Abuse, a journal of research and treatment. Pedophilia, quote, pedophilia is the attraction to children, regardless of whether the person ever harms, end quote. Not all people who sexually abuse children are pedophiles. Some pedophiles never abuse children, experts say, and some people who sexually abuse children do not sexually prefer them, but use them as a surrogate for an adult partner. They may be disinhibited and antisocial with impulse control problems. So many thoughts. Mel, do you want to go first?
Well, I would rank like pedophilia like right up there with like sex trafficking, human trafficking, little less than abortion, but still like right up there.
Right, like
it's
right
like
there.
just like a tad, like just like a notch, like a teeny notch. Like if you're like adjusting your volume in your car, it's just like a little. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. Even if, let's just say, like, even if pedophilia is a mental disorder, that still does not make it okay or like justify, like, yeah, like you could say, I don't know, some people I don't know, have multiple personality disorders and they want to, I don't know, one day they love their husband, the next day they want to beat up their husband. I don't know, this is an example. That still doesn't make that okay, just because you can fall back on, well, I have a mental illness, whatever.
So really quick, I just don't buy it as a mental illness. Like I don't buy, I buy it as a perversion. It's the same as, like, we don't say people who are rapists have a mental illness. So that's how I feel about, like, I just don't think.
I think it's definitely disordered. I think it definitely, is from the devil, implanting thoughts into people's minds and their hearts, desensitizing people. And so that's why I say, let's just say, even if this is the cause of a mental disorder, it's still wrong. So, like, I don't know, whether or not somebody chooses their attractions or they're born with their attractions, if their attractions are disordered, it's still wrong to act out on that attraction. So I'm just trying to parallel that with, that argument. It could be, I don't know, like a circular thing, like a cycle of somebody grows up watching pornography, they create more pornography, and it goes, back, and somebody else grows up watching it, they create it, and I don't know. But yeah, I know, like, you and I've talked about before of like the reason, this is like kind of on topic but off topic, but like the reason why as girls we feel the need to shave our bodies, to be completely a naked mole rat down at in our vagina area, our vulva. I think I completely agree with you when we talked about it once, that stems, like, there's no other explanation, I don't think, that it, unless it stems from pedophilia and from the pornography industry, glorifying, glamorizing that, because that hairless women is just not our autonomy. That is not how our bodies are made.
It's 10-year-olds. At 10 years old, you're hairless. Our grandparents, I promise you, your grandmother, your great grandmother was not hairless. I don't know her. Anyone listening, I don't know her. I never, watched her have sex, but I promise you, she was hairless. This has come from the easy accessibility.
You mean she had hair?
She was, oh, I'm sorry, she had hair. You're right. She had hair. And the hairlessness has come from the easy accessibility to porn. And I'm going to say this, and someone told me I'm a little harsh on porn. I am harsh on porn. I'm not hard. I don't want to be harsh to people who are struggling with it, but I am harsh on porn, and I'm harsh on the porn industry. I want to say this too. Porn starts off sweet and vanilla. You see this, when you're watching porn, sweet and vanilla. You see this person with that person, it's all fine. It can only escalate. So if you're listening and you have a boyfriend or a husband that is struggling with porn addiction, he needs to go
or
speak.
Girlfriend.
Or girlfriend. Or if you are a girlfriend that's struggling with porn addiction, you or someone you're listening to needs to go speak with someone in spiritual authority, such as a pastor, such as accountability partner needs to speak with them as soon as this now. Don't even finish the episode. Go now.
Forget about us. We'll still be here.
We'll still be here, and tell me your testimony, because I'd love to hear it. Because no, seriously, like this all, I promise you, I don't like to speak in absolutes, but I believe with my full heart, absolutely, every person that's a pedophile has watched and consumed excessive amounts of porn. I don't like to speak in absolutes. Sure, there could be a person who was locked in a dungeon but you know what? If you're locked in a dungeon your whole life, I hate to say it, you probably have had some sort of sexual trauma, because if you had someone, locking you in a dungeon, bad example. I can't even think of anybody how you would be a pedophile or have not consumed porn. I can't even think of a scenario where that would happen.
And that's something
from porn.
Yeah, and just to share about my personal experience, if anyone's listening to this episode for the first time. So I'm actually a survivor of child sexual abuse. I was sexually abused by a family member all throughout my childhood. And I think throughout our conversations of talking about pornography, Mallory, one day it finally clicked of I don't know, unless it truly is a mental disorder, there's no way how somebody wakes up one day and says, I'm going to do this horrific act. And I agree with you. It starts small. There's no other way. I think 100%, it's from pornography being put into the mind, into the heart, being desensitized. And for somebody, and I've heard it before of the more you watch pornography and you're involved with sexual sin, you keep needing a bigger hit.
You need a bigger high.
Yeah, exactly. And it's with any drug, eventually, I guess your body gets accustomed, and then you have to do more. There has to be bigger, better, badder, whatever, for that high. And so I think that that's probably how somebody gets into that porn of, raping an adolescent, an infant. And it's sad, and that's from nowhere other than the devil.
Nowhere other than the devil. And the devil has done a fantastic job of making porn seem so normalized. I cannot believe how many men and women now, but I will say this in women's defense, y'all know how pro-woman I am. In women's defense, I want to say it's 70%, I could be totally off, but I want to say it's 70% of women are introduced to porn from their male partner. I will say that. But anyway, the devil has done an amazing job of making it how super normal. The last guy that I tried to start a relationship with, one night we started talking, and we literally argued for an hour and a half over porn, and he tried to convince me that it is normal, that this is what a healthy relationship does. And he even he said, well, if you're insecure, you need to work on your insecurity. That's what he told me. If you're insecure, you need to work on your insecurity because
Disgusting.
over me watching porn, over your partner. So over your partner watching porn, if you're insecure, you should work on that. That's what he told me. The devil has done a fantastic job getting it and making it normal. And this is kind of like off topic, but kind of on topic. This all makes me think. So it's underlined in the article. So it's underlined on our docket, and it says exploded to crisis levels online. I think that's so worded in a disgusting way. Exploded to crisis levels online because it is a crisis. And let me tell you one thing. Y'all know I talked about this episode last week, but it is bothering me so much, especially because it's I don't want to say the devil. I mean, I guess it could stem from the devil, but the producers have made it visually attractive. The music is fun. The storyline is actually very interesting. The show Euphoria. They show male genitalia full blown, and this is a high school show. The kids are not in high school though. So I'm sorry, that's not okay. If I would be against it if they were in college as well, but it would make a little bit more sense to have the story take place in college than in high school. And to me, it's tiny things like that. And y'all, if I mean,
Zendaya's in this show,
and it makes me cry. I love Zendaya. We'll get onto that. We can talk about that a little bit later. But
no,
I know.
Not Zendaya.
I know. Everyone's talking about how great the show is, and I knew the new season was coming out, so I watched the first episode and some of the second, and I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I don't understand how adults can do it. I don't understand. It is so inappropriate. Sure, maybe kids in high school were doing this. I don't know. I was a goody two shoes, but they could have aged them. It's so strange to me. They're not even seniors. They're juniors in high school, like full, completely nude in some scenes, like showing actual, and it's HBO, so HBO, and that's the other thing too. Things like HBO, Netflix, they don't have the same rules that the FCC has on TV. Because y'all remember,
is gay in the show.
So I'll give you a brief synopsis of. So she's technically not gay because she's dating a transgender girl, and I didn't even know she was transgender. I found out she was transgender because I watched a review. I couldn't finish the show. I watched a review of the show, and they mentioned that she was transgender.
Like a boy who became a girl?
Yes, it's a boy that became a girl.
Okay.
So I guess she is gay. Well, but the thing is, here's the thing. I think she's fluid because I'm pretty sure she later likes a guy. I couldn't fully tell. But here's the other thing too. That's a whole nother, the sexuality part is a whole nother
shake
thing.
It up like Spider-Man Queen.
Casey Undercover. I
totally forgot about Casey Undercover.
Over Christmas break, I actually watched a little saga with the cute Asian guy from 13 Reasons Why. They have like I don't know if you remember that. It's like 4 episodes. I sat and watched the whole thing over Christmas break. So we can discuss that show.
I'm so shocked, y'all. But I just want to say, shows like Euphoria, I don't know. I've never watched Game of Thrones, but from what it seems, it seems like there's a lot of sex scenes in there. I don't know. I've never watched it because of that. But shows like Euphoria, even like 13 Reasons Why, we can throw that in there. I don't know. Other shows.
Was there sex scenes in 13 Reasons Why? I don't remember.
Yes.
Okay.
Or at least you can allude.
Sexual. Got it.
You can guess what's happening, when they wake up the next day. And anyways.
Right.
And those shows, programs, movies, not only like, I don't know, glamorize high school, but I feel like young people, I know young people are watching this content and then they're thinking, well, I guess this is what everybody's doing. And because of that thought, they do it because they think everybody's doing this, right? When in reality, everybody's chilling, everybody's at home, eating their goldfish, watching Netflix, hanging with their dog, like not actually doing the euphoria lifestyle what it make it out to be.
And so the story plot is about a girl who's in high school who's addicted to drugs, and then there's other, and I think the plot could actually be really, really good. I think that the music was good. I love the visuals. I like the lighting that they do and the different artistic takes and some of the scenes that I saw. I just saw the first episode and the beginning of the second one. So even from that, I was like, oh, okay, I like this. But it's just so much unnecessary sex. Perfect example I can think of, Degrassi. Did you ever watch Degrassi?
No.
So Degrassi, couldn't watch it when I was in high school or middle school or elementary school. But eventually I watched it as an adult. It's all on YouTube. And there's a scene where Manny, one of the main characters, she gets drunk and she lifts up her shirt and she's like doing all this, and one of the guys like filming it, blah, 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 right? My perfect example is we didn't see her breast, but we knew what was going on. Like we knew that he filmed it. And then the next day there was consequences for him, which I also, something too, I like that. He was shamed for filming her, but that's a whole other conversation. So, you know, we see that. Oh, we didn't see it, but we knew what happened. They can say Mary Sue and Joe went to their bedroom and got it on. They can even do a pan of them under the covers, and we get it. We get the point. We understand. There was a scene where one of the girls had filmed like a sexual scene. This part, obviously, you should not listen with kids. Sorry about that, y'all. There was a scene where they showed on the phone, they were all watching one of the girls, she had made a porn in high school and had been sent around the school, and the guy was showing him, and all the guys were like, oh yeah, but okay. They didn't have to show us the porn. We could get that the guys were, we understood the plot, we understood the message they were trying to relay without having to show us. We've gone way off track of
I've heard it one time. At one time I heard kind of like a summary of this pornography chastity talk, and one point was even just shows like that or scenes like that, it may not be the traditional classification of pornography, but that even that is pornography.
Yep.
And I agree, and that's why I try to stay away from things like that. I like The Bachelor, y'all, but I look away. I turn my head, I close my eyes. Anyways, but I think it just starts small. Euphoria, Game of Thrones. Oh, this is fun. Wow, I like the way I feel. What's that website again? All the boys joked about in high school. Haha, I don't know. But it starts small. There's a crack. And then some people may feel like, well, no turning back now. But I also want to share this message of like one time, like there's this Instagram page that I follow that their sole like job, their purpose of that organization is to track down these like online pedophilia, like pornography distributors, and to arrest them, or like even the abusers themselves, the traffickers. And they'll post like pictures of the guys. I don't remember if they blur their faces, but kind of just to show like, hey, we got this guy, he did this, and now he's, gonna be locked up. And one time I commented on one of the posts of the guy that they arrested, and I said like, may God have mercy on his soul, like something like that. And then somebody messaged me back like, there's no mercy for people like this, or like something like that. And I guess it's hard to think in that way, that even someone who has done something so horrible also deserves mercy. But I just want to share that message of like, that the greatest sinner can, become a saint, and that they can give their life to God, have a conversion or a reversion if they grew up Christian and fell away, that it is possible and that God can use that story for his glory. Ooh, that rhymed. But yeah, I just want to share that of like, even, you know, the pedophiles, the sex traffickers, the whatever else, that
Abortionists.
yes, that they all deserve mercy, and that they have till their dying breath to accept Christ and to repent. So it is possible. And yeah, that's one of my prayers, especially like for my own abuser, is I pray that he repents. I don't want anyone to go to hell. I think that because of Christ's sacrifice on the cross, everybody, you know, is called to that ocean of his mercy, to accept his mercy. And so, yeah, I just want to lighten that there is hope, there's redemption, even after the greatest and most ugliest sins.
And I want to just add to that, and then I guess we should wrap up this section. And I hope I'm not overstepping, but Melanie really does practice what she preaches. If this is too much, I can cut it out. But when she posted something a couple months ago from, I guess it was the impact statement on your Instagram.
It was the day that he finally like got a judgment from the judge of like, here's the ruling of like how long you're gonna be in prison.
And she like legitimately in her statement, she prayed for him pretty much. She prayed for his soul, and she mentioned like she practices what she preaches. And honestly, like that was very, I cried.
No.
I've only known you for a year and some change, and that was like very, I don't know. She practices what she preaches, and I think that there's a lot of weight to that because I have never experienced anything like that. So me saying show compassion, which is why like there are certain topics like I sometimes like I shouldn't talk too much about, but like me saying show compassion doesn't hold as much weight as someone who hasn't been hurt in that way. But Melanie has, and like the fact that she's saying that, just like to me that shows maturity. And also too, that's really what the Bible, which I have here because we want to read a verse later today, is really what the Bible is like showing us and telling us to do. So yeah, so I think that's a good note to end this section on, is like, this is terrible, horrible. We have to speak out against it. But no one is too far from God.
Yeah. Nobody's beyond the mercy of Christ.
No one. Yeah. That was good. Another really, our last story that we're going to wrap up on is another sad story that someone who needs God's mercy as well.
For real.
Some of you have probably already seen the video, so we're going to talk about it really quick. Of the New Mexico teen mom who threw her newborn baby in a dumpster. The police say the infant is in stable condition, and this was as of 2 days ago. So I feel like the baby's probably out. It was on the news today, and they named the baby already. So I think he's doing a lot better. His name is Saul, and I'm not quite sure why. I think that's like, I would have named the baby Paul, but I don't know. Because like I feel like there's no positive Saul in the Bible, but it's not my child. So anyway, so surveillance video taken outside of New Mexico store shows the moment a teen mom tossed her unwanted newborn baby into a dumpster, and the rescuers who pulled her to safety 5 hours later. It should be him, right? Because Saul is a male name. Quote, I got a call about 8:30 on Friday, said Hobbs PD, and said, hey, Joe, are your cameras working out back? Joe Emmer, the owner of Rig Outfitters, told Fox News Digital. They said, we have a crime scene. At first, he thought someone had broken into the store, but the video showed a woman pulling up in a white car around 2 p.m. Mountain Time Friday, unceremoniously tossing a black bag from the back seat into the dumpster and driving off. Close to 6 hours later, the cameras show a group of people fishing through the dumpster and pulling the baby out. They had heard the baby crying inside, Imbriel said. Acting Hobbs Police Chief August Fons said during a news briefing on Monday afternoon that the 3 people were scavenging in the dumpster for anything of value when they heard whimpering inside. They dug closer and eventually found the male newborn inside a trash bag. They picked him up, wrapped him in a dirty, wet towel, covered in dried blood, with his umbilical cord still attached, the chief said. Police identified the Good Samaritans as Michael Green, Hector Hasso, and April Nuttall. Hasso told police that they first thought the cry might have been a kitten, but as soon as they picked up the bag, he could tell it was too heavy. Nuttall fished the child out of the bag and immediately cradled him in the towel, according to the video of the incident and the police report Green called 911. Their collective quick response to this emergency, including notification of 911, was absolutely pivotal in saving this baby's life, Vaughn said. Police arrived within minutes, and a short while later, the investigators called Imbrell and asked if they could review his surveillance cameras. He told Fox News Daily. They said, we're looking for somebody that dumped a black garbage bag in the dumpster, and I knew right then. I turned to the office and said, please don't tell me it's my baby, he said. The room got emotional, he said, but one of the officers interjected, the baby's still alive, don't worry. I will say on the news, they said the 16-year-old baby daddy didn't even know she was pregnant, and he's trying to get custody of the baby now. Yeah, he did. This story is just so sad to me. There's just so many points, but Melanie, you go first.
Well, I hope that we can see the parallels of this with abortion, of just a complete disregard,
utter disregard
of the humanity and the dignity of that life. And I would think it's really interesting if there's any pro-abortion people out there who have empathy for this newborn, because if this was, an hour before, I don't know, if he was still in the womb and the mother chose an abortion, a partial birth abortion, would they have that same reaction? If there's any pro-abortion people out there who are, appalled by this, I would just be curious to know, their thoughts. I did see online that the mom was arrested.
Yeah, she was arrested.
So I don't know. I just think, maybe one day, for right now, the time being, I don't think that women should be punished who seek abortions, because I believe that women are also victims of the abortion industry. Women have also been lied to. Women are hurting. But I think, let's say 10, 20, 100 years where we're in an anti-abortion society, I would hope there's a similar reaction or uproar if a woman, fully knowing about the humanity of the life, chooses abortion, somehow does an abortion, that there would be this same reaction of, oh my goodness, how could she do this?
Yeah.
I think it's so sad. And I wonder if she was able to, I guess, not tell the baby daddy about her pregnancy. I wonder, did mom and dad know? Is their mom, dad, family, friends? Did anybody know about this pregnancy? And then another thing I want to know.
She didn't know till she gave birth. She said she did not know until she gave birth.
How is that even possible?
I have no idea.
Oh my goodness. Have you seen that show of
I didn't know I was pregnant? I've seen clips, yeah.
Years ago, I watched like a couple episodes, but thinking about it now, with my pro-life lens, how can you not know you're pregnant? But then I'm thinking of her giving birth. Did she give birth alone at home in her bathroom?
That's what it sounded. So on the news today, they said she gave birth by herself. She didn't know she's pregnant. She gave birth by herself in the bathroom. Is what they said on the news. And boyfriend, baby daddy did not know, and he's trying to get custody. They didn't say the parents knew, but she said she didn't know, so I'm assuming that her parents didn't know. And I think I read somewhere too, her mom was like, we have to show compassion, and making a lot of excuses for her, which I'm just so on the fence about how to feel about her, because on one hand, I'm like, oh, in the video, she's just like throwing like, it's like she's throwing like a pizza box. It honestly like made me tear up just to think of there's a human being in that. So on one hand, I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, I cannot believe a human being would do this to another human being, to an innocent human being, not just an innocent human being that is half of you, an innocent human being that innately you are called to take care of. She had to violate everything that's already inside of her to do something like that. And then on the other hand, I'm thinking like, what messed up situation could you be in that you would think that that's okay? That you would think that like, what situation could you possibly be in that this is what you can resort to? I mean, she could have dropped the baby off at a fire station, at a police station.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I'm sure even in her neighborhood, she could have dropped the baby off, like, not even trying to be funny, but like maybe have a basket or something, drop the baby off and just say, here's the baby. And someone would have known what to do. Like, if someone dropped the baby off at our door, I would know what to do. Well, obviously I'd look around and everything. But anyway, my whole point is there's so many other options she could have done. How messed up, like, what is wrong with
Yeah.
her? Like, what is she, are we gonna find out she has mental, I don't know, like what could cause a mother, a human being, a mother, because inside of us women, even women who don't even really want kids, there is something automatically that God has put inside of us to naturally nurture, to want to hold, to want to take care of. I mean, even in the video, the other part that also made me tear up, even in the video, that lady, she automatically like, oh gosh, it's like, sorry, I'm so dramatic. I don't mean to be. She like grabbed the
No,
baby
it's sad.
automatically and like was cradling it, and she like
Yeah.
kissed it, and the baby was like in the like, think about that. Like, I think going to the trash, I'm sure people do it all the time, I think it's disgusting. Like, I think it's so gross, because you think about all the other things that have been there, because the baby had been in there for 6 hours. It probably smelled disgusting. It's just her natural response was to hold and cradle, and she even kissed it in the video. And it's just like, what could possess a human being to do that to someone so innocent and so pure? And I know that sometimes we all joke about like, oh, I don't like to hear babies on a plane, or like, this baby at church was really loud. But like, the reality is like, if a baby is in your arm, you just naturally, it's like a natural thing inside. Like, what could make you do that? And I also think about like, when he sees this video when he's 16 years old, like, what is he gonna, I mean, the trauma that he's probably already endured, being out as like in his cell levels and like on his skin, like all the other things. And then I also think about like, I have friends that are trying so hard to get pregnant, and then this lady is so blessed that she had this so clearly naturally, and she just so casually like threw it away. It's so much. And it also too, last thing, and I'll get off my soapbox, it just also goes to show like where we are in society of how we treat human beings. I'm talking about the pre-board, I'm talking about the board, I'm talking about our neighbors, I'm talking about your great grand, the older lady that lives across the street from you. Like, it just goes to show how we view humanity. And it shows like, that's why we're in the area where, that's why people who have COVID or people who are vaccinated are wishing death on people who are not vaccinated. In reality, that's why people who aren't vaccinated are wishing death on people who are vaccinated. Like, both sides are doing it because we just don't care about people. And it's so sad. And I just thinking about that video and about just like the second lady holding him, and like how natural that was, like a mother, like a woman's, I don't even know if she's a mother, but just like a woman's instinct, like how
Yeah.
much did you have to fight that to just toss like a pizza box, just toss. And she didn't even play, like, you know, it wouldn't be okay, but you know, people have like placed kids in the trash or placed them somewhere. She didn't even place. It was just like a oof. And it just, those are my thoughts.
And I
Sorry, that was a
think
lot.
that the not even placing the baby, but tossing the baby, I think stems from a pro-abortion culture, where we have that, who cares? You can just get an abortion. And I wonder, had she known she was pregnant, seems like she would have gotten an abortion.
Yeah.
Seems like she tossed that baby because she's like, darn it, if I had known you were inside of me, I wouldn't have wanted you. I would have aborted you. So I'm getting rid of you now. Yeah.
And why didn't she think that she could go to somebody who could help? Like, does she know about her pregnancy resource centers? Does she go to church and know someone who would like watch the child? Like, honestly, I've been really, and I struggle with this just because I do not like to ask for help. Like, I'd rather just handle everything on my own. But the Bible talks about this. In a little Bible study thing I did this week, we read a scripture in Ecclesiastes about this. Like, conservatives, one thing that I think we overstepped in is individualism. We really are not necessarily collective, but community is really what we need to be. Like, this is where community comes in. Like, if she had someone that she could have talked to, because I mean, I just can't imagine like all of the things she had to biologically and logically she had to bypass to get to the point to go against, to get to the point where you're going to casually toss a baby. And like, also too, like, I'm sure there like, I don't know, I know when someone's pregnant. Like, I've seen women and I've been like, I mean, she could have hid it. And I mean, maybe her school isn't back open, so they don't see her at school. But I'm just like, there had to be people around her that thought that something was off. She had to know something was off. There's just so many times where like, it's just, we just need to, I'm not blaming this on community. And I don't know if community would have made a difference, but it just also makes me think like, for the people in our life that could be in a situation, an unplanned pregnancy, where they just do not want the child, like, that's where community steps in. That's where, okay, let's think about adoption, maybe parenting classes. You need this, you need that. Like, that's just where all of this comes in. And it's just such a sad story. But what I am glad is almost all the comments were upset at the mom. And a lot of them said we need better sex education, which we can agree. I'm sure we probably disagree with what better means, but I think it's good that we can all come together and agree that like, this was horrible. Everybody said it was horrible, and that we need better sex education. Now, whether that's, this way or this way, we can disagree on, but like, the fact that we need better sex education, because that's the other thing too. If she was charting, if she was not on, I guess she wasn't on birth control, but if she was at least charting, she would have known something was off.
I mean, maybe she was. I just looked up the statistics today for the amount of women on birth control who seek abortions. And it's from 2014 is the latest stat. I imagine, I don't know how it's changed, but about 50%, 51 is the number, of women who get abortions are on some type of contraceptive the month that they get pregnant.
I did not know that. Did not know that. I'm going to post that fact tomorrow.
50%. Well, the actual number is 51. 51%. Wow. So it could be very likely that homegirl was on birth control. I mean, she's obviously sexually active. So obviously, I mean, it would make sense to me that she was on contraception, some form, and contraception failed. And this is what the abortion industry wants. And I just made a reel about this on my Instagram about this exact topic, that the same founders of the abortion industry were the founders of the birth control industry. Margaret Sanger and colleagues started, I forgot, like birth control. So it was a birth control clinic that later became the first Planned Parenthood. And then the two, birth control organization and the abortion organization merged into Planned Parenthood. And so
I didn't know all that.
And so I just think it's really interesting. I think it's really suspicious. If you watch my reel, you'll get my joke. I find it really suspicious that the same industry that started abortion also started birth control. And so, and then about half of the women getting abortions were on birth control, which means that their contraception failed. So the abortion industry says, hey, we have your solution. Don't worry, you can keep on with your sexual activity. You won't become pregnant, but if you do, you know where to find us. Then their contraceptives fail and they go back to Planned Parenthood. And something I heard once, which is kind of funny, is the title birth control allows for neither birth nor self-control. There's neither birth nor control in birth control. So I think it could actually be titled, I don't know, pregnancy or responsibility prevention. We could title it that. But yeah, it's a part of the abortion industry's plan, their evil plan to lead a woman to seek abortion, make them money.
And to wrap it all together, and they are being exposed to porn and sexual explicit images and ideas that gets them to want to be on birth control.
And Planned Parenthood is teaching their sex ed as early as kindergarten. And they're seeing graphic images. They're learning about LGBTQIA plus sex stuff from very early on. So Planned Parenthood's building
TV shows,
building a relationship with them, saying, you don't have to talk to mom and dad. I've known you since kindergarten. If you need your birth control, if you need your abortion, I've known you since you were little. You can come talk to me. That's their evil plan.
And they're watching Euphoria or shows like it.
Yeah.
No, like, it's just, it's all a lot. Okay. We got to change topics. Let's do something a little bit light. The Bible, which honestly, this verse has nothing to do with what we've talked about today, but is a verse that they talked about in this Bible study thing that I did. And I really wanted to talk about, or like at least go over it, and maybe, you know, it resonates with somebody. And honestly, like, this is definitely an episode we should end in the word if we can, because we just talked about a lot of heavy stuff, and I'm just sad about how the world is, but we know that we have hope in Jesus. This scripture is brought to you by Culture of Life 1972. You can head over to www.col1972.com and use the code THOSEOTHERGIRLS1972 and get 10% off your purchase. 100% of your purchase goes to pro-life causes. So this verse is John 4, 13 through 14, and it says, I'm reading from the ESV. It says, Jesus said to her, everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks of the water that I give him will never be thirsty again. The water that I will give him will become in him a spring of water welling up to eternal life. And I'm not quite sure how to connect it. Melanie, think of how to connect it to what we just talked about, but I'm going to say my 2 cents on this. Part of the reason why I really like this is I like the fact that it said we'll never thirst again. And I think this is just like a good reminder, especially for those of us starting off the new year and we want to read the Bible more, we want to get closer to God. This is how we will never want anything else. We'll never want to indulge in things that we know that will disappoint him, because if we drink from his fountain, we will never thirst again. Melanie, do you know how to connect this to what we've talked about today? If not, it's okay.
Well, I mean, I just agree with you that I've heard it said before that we have a God-sized hole in our heart. And so we're always seeking things to fill that hole when only God can fill that hole. And there's a scripture verse that's, I think it's in Psalms, it says like, as a deer longs for running streams of water, so my soul longs for you, Lord. Something like that.
Yeah.
Similar to that verse. And so like we can have, I don't know, I like to think of it even on a really good day. Like you had a really good meal, church was awesome, you had a great travel experience, or I don't know, you bought something that you were really wanting, but even then your soul is still longing for the Lord. Like your soul is not satisfied. And so just connecting that, all these ugly things of the world, pornography, abortion, etc., like people are seeking these things out because really their souls are longing for something greater that will never be satisfied on earth, which is God. So we gotta drink of that water,
The living water.
that
Amen.
living water.
Amen. Well, thanks everybody for sticking with it. This is probably a way too long episode, but we have
2
a lot to
times
say.
speed, y'all. 2 times speed. 2 times speed.
Thank you so much for listening. We just really appreciate you listening and you supporting the podcast. Like I said earlier when I was talking about Carmen's post, I really do want this podcast to reach the people that it needs to reach. My prayer for every episode is that it reach whoever needs to hear it. And I think that there are many girls out there, especially some of the things we said about the porn industry, some of the things what Melody even said about like forgiveness and mercy to people who do these abhorrent things, but having mercy. Some of this episode someone needs to hear. So part of the way that you could do that is to make sure you share this, you like it, you subscribe, leave us a review. So the way Apple Podcasts suggest things to people and how it like moves up in the algorithm is if you leave reviews and people are subscribing. So the more reviews we have, the more people will find us and the more we can reach the people who need to hear this. So if you guys can just do that and support us. Hopefully if you're going to be at the North Carolina March for Life, maybe you're listening to this on your way to the North Carolina March for Life. Hopefully you have a long drive because this was a long episode. You'll see me there. And if you're going to the National March for Life, you'll see both of us there. And if you're going by yourself, please reach out. We would love to go. We would love to march with you so that you're not alone. I guess that's it. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. After this episode was kind of heavy, get some Bible reading in, take a walk, touch some grass. That's what I'm gonna do. That's what they say on the line when you've been online too much. Touch grass. I'm gonna go out and touch some grass. Maybe not right now.
Grounding, earthing. It's good for you, y'all.
Yeah. Do that, the earthing thing. But yeah, you guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, whenever, however you're listening to this, and hear us later. Bye.
Bye.